Yo guys, how's it going? AK Moto here. As you guys know, I recently just picked up this Honda CRF450L, and my plans for this bike are to make it into a Supermoto, but for a little while I was going to ride it in the dirt trim and just kind of enjoy this dual sport setup it has on here. Now unfortunately, we're going to be framing the bike today. We're going to be tearing this bike all the way down, and I'll show you guys why here in a second. I've only ridden this bike a handful of times, basically to go get it registered and maybe to work and back one time. But here I'm going to show you why I'm going to be tearing down this bike. So the other day I was going to go out for a little evening ride, and I noticed the chain was looking a little loose, so I went to go adjust it, and then our left side adjuster was actually seized in the swing arm. So I was thinking, okay, it happens on dirt bikes, no big deal. I'll just pull out the adjusters. I have some new adjuster bolts on hand. Maybe there's a little bit of corrosion in there. Now our right side adjuster came out just fine, as you can see, but unfortunately our left side adjuster really wasn't having it. It completely broke off. Now one good thing is that it was already moving. At least it's not totally, seized, completely frozen. So I know that bolt can come out. The best way we can remove this is to remove the swing arm from the bike and then soak this in penetrant for a while. Maybe even take it to a machine shop if that doesn't really loosen it up quite enough, because I really don't want to have to buy a new swing arm. So I know a machine shop would definitely be able to get this out pretty easily in most cases. But pretty much no matter what, the best thing we're going to have to do to get this bolt out is remove the swing arm. And if we're removing the whole entire swing arm from this bike, we might as well frame it. And that'll give us a good opportunity to go in and grease all the bearings and just clean everything up really well. So this bike does have 5,000 miles on it, just over 5,000 miles. So it's not incredibly high mileage for the year 2019. But I do want to go ahead and get the top end of the motor refreshed. So I want to put in a new piston and rings. I want to check the valve clearances and just make sure everything for the motor looks really good. Bottom end, shifting, all that is good. I've ridden the bike enough to know that it doesn't have any issues down there. But I do want to refresh the top end because that is a wear item, and this is based off of the CRF450R motor, and generally on motocross race bikes they can go through top ends pretty quickly. So just as a maintenance item, preventative maintenance, I would like to do a top end on the bike. So if I'm going to do all this work tearing into the bike, we might as well just go that extra step, completely frame the whole thing, and just get a really good opportunity to clean and inspect every little thing on the bike. Now I am planning on doing a Supermoto build on this bike. I've actually already ordered the wheels from Warp 9. I know those are going to take a couple weeks to get built and get here, so I ordered those really early. And there are some other things I want to tackle in terms of maintenance and just little things that I want to do on the bike. One example is the chain and sprockets. When we go to a Warp 9 wheel setup, we're going to want to run different gearing than the stock wheels, so we are going to need to order new chain and sprockets. Now as it sits now, this bike is set up for more of a dual sport trim, so you can see we have a little windshield here, a really gnarly TM Designs skid plate, and a little Baja rack at the back here. I don't really plan on keeping these parts on the bike because I want to run a Supermoto setup. I don't really want to have these kind of larger, bulkier items on the bike. If anything, I want this bike to resemble closer to an actual dirt bike itself. Just with the road tires obviously and the lighting equipment. Probably gonna buy a tidy tail fender eliminator kit as well, just to eliminate all this bulk. Just kind of clean up the bike a little bit. For Supermoto uses, we're not gonna need these enduro parts, so I plan on taking those off. And in a lot of ways, tearing down this bike to the frame is gonna be just like any other dirt bike. The only difference with this bike is it does have a little bit more emissions equipment, and it does have a little bit more wiring to it because of all the street legal things it has on it. I'm not too worried about it though. At the end of the day, it is still pretty close to a normal Honda CRF450R, just with some more wiring. Although it is going to be a lot of work, tearing down this bike down to the frame will give us the opportunity to inspect every single part on the bike. We'll be able to get everything really clean and looking really nice, and we'll be able to replace any wear items that we find along the way. And just for a quick little overview before we actually tear this thing down, this is a 2019 Honda CRF450R. Its most notable mods are it has a Yoshimura RS4. That is a really nice exhaust system to have on here. We have a Vertex ECU, so we already have unlocked much more power than stock. Up here at the front, we have Pro Taper handlebars, we have Pro Taper bar clamps. Looks like we have some Cycra hand guards. I know this piece is aftermarket. It is more of a kind of windshield bug deflector for more enduro usage. We have some aftermarket mirrors on here. Our front fender and front headlight do have some scratches on it. The fender we can probably replace pretty easily. Now these headlights I know can be pretty expensive, but these scratches are pretty deep. So we'll see what we end up doing about that. This bike still does have the thermostat and the emissions equipment on it. Just has the tuned ECU. Here we have a rear luggage rack. Looks like for the exhaust system we have a little heat shield. I'll probably be taking that off because, to be honest with you guys, it looks a little bit ugly. Besides that, that's pretty much it, guys. It's the full Yoshi system, but on top of that, nothing else besides the seat concept seat. Now I actually do have the stock seat and stock gas tank, stock skid plate, pretty much all these stock takeoff parts for the bike, and I'm planning on putting these back on just because they are in really good condition. I'll pull those out later so you guys can see those, but yeah, we also have the stock seat. I know this seat concept seat is going to be much more comfortable for longer rides, but again, I really want this thing to feel more closer to a dirt bike. I want it to be really playful. I'm not really too worried about sitting on this bike for hours and hours on end. I want the sportier feel. Now when tearing down an entire motorcycle, it is really important that you have a lot of space to work. So you guys can see I have a workbench set up right here, a bench set up back there, and then we have our 2 workbenches here in the shop to use as well. So really important to stay organized through a whole process like this. I will be taking a lot of pictures on my phone just because this is still a bike that is pretty new to me. So you want to remember how things go. Not really any specific order I'm going to follow here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with all the plastics and all the bodywork stuff, handlebars, all the easier kind of tag on stuff. I'll take all that off, and after I get all that off, I'll start removing things like the wheels, the suspension, the motor, and yeah, so first things first, let's just start tearing into this thing. I think first I'll take off the seat, start removing some of the stuff on the handlebars and just some of the bodywork throughout the bike. Alrighty guys, so we got the engine out of the chassis. That is a huge milestone, huge achievement for today. It's getting a little later, so tonight I'm not going to quite finish fully stripping off the frame. It's really just a lot of wiring left over on it. But tonight I'm going to end off by getting the swing arm off and kind of the rear wheel, just so we can get that swing arm kind of upright and throw some penetrating lubricant on that bolt that is stuck in the swing arm, so we can give it overnight to soak, and hopefully tomorrow to loosen up a little bit, and then we'll just kind of have to go from there on what we're going to do with getting that bolt out. So yeah, let's go ahead and get that rear swing arm off, and then after that we'll probably call it. Alrighty guys, and we have hit a solid stopping point for tonight. So as you guys can see, it's just the bike's frame and some miscellaneous wiring there on the stand. We have the motor pulled out right behind me, and we have the swing arm right down here as well. So I put some penetrating fluid on the outside of that bolt. So hopefully overnight that can kind of soak in, and even if we can't get it out, it'll be easier if we do have to take it somewhere to get it extracted for them to get it out. No matter what, even if we do decide to take the swing arm somewhere like to a professional machinist, it'll still be a lot cheaper than getting a brand new swing arm for the bike. So we'll see tomorrow. I'll take another look at it, but if it looks like something that's going to require a little bit of skill to get out, I'm not even going to risk it, because I know the risks kind of don't quite outweigh the rewards. And honestly guys, I am really glad we're doing this, because pretty much all the parts that I pulled off of this bike are really dang dirty. At the surface, the bike looked pretty clean, but the second you start really looking, deeper into the bike, you can tell a lot of this stuff is really dirty and it's never gotten a really good cleaning. So I'm really glad that the perfectionist inside of me can get an opportunity to really clean this chassis really well, clean up the frame, clean up all the parts on the bike, and we get the opportunity to retorque all the fasteners, grease all the pivot points, grease all the bearings, and all that good stuff. So while it is definitely a lot more work, it should pay off in the end. We should have a better end result. Basically giving this bike a full bill of health, knowing that every single little piece of this bike has been checked, and we're gonna know for sure everything on this bike is perfect for many miles to come on the road. So we need to get some parts on order. I'm gonna cap this video off here for tonight, and I'll see you guys in the morning. Alrighty guys, so it is the next day, and we're really close to getting this bike completely torn down. There's just a couple more things we have to pull off of the main frame here, and then a couple little things we have to take off of the swing arm. So let's get right into it. Before here I started recording, I just quickly organized everything a little bit more, just because it was starting to get messy towards the end of the day yesterday. So I have a lot of the brake lines and hoses and stuff, evap system hoses, just a lot of the longer lines and hoses on that workbench. That workbench I'm going to leave for the engine, because we're going to be tearing that apart in a couple days. And then over here is pretty much everything that came off of the bike in terms of the chassis, all that good stuff. And I will say I am really glad I am doing this, because as you guys can see, this frame is pretty crusty, and pretty much all the parts that we took off the bike are not looking any better. They're all pretty dirty, and it could use some cleaning and a good refresh. Let's get the last of the wiring pulled off the frame. Looks like we also have to take off the linkage arm as well, and then we'll take off some of the chain sliders and rollers off of the swing arm, and then we'll be done. guys, so I'm gonna wrap this video up here. We have this bike all the way stripped down to the bare frame, swing arm, and the subframe. Everything's completely torn down. We have pretty much an entire dirt bike laid out on a table of parts right here. More parts back there, and then of course our engine's right over there. A lot of really cool things to come for this bike, guys. I'm super excited. We're gonna get this thing absolutely dialed in clean. And in the next video, you guys will probably see us cleaning up the frame, swing arm, and subframe, getting those aluminum parts really shiny, and also just cleaning up a lot of these little miscellaneous parts we have. And yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Subscribe so you guys don't miss any upcoming content with this CRF450L. Plenty of videos to come. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.